10:17 p.m. The leather bill folder landed in front of me with a soft thud. I didn't need to open it to know what was inside. $3,847. The number stared up at me from the embossed receipt like a final exam I'd already failed. Across the table, my mother Jill was still debating dessert options with Christine. "The tiramisu here is supposed to be divine," my sister said, not looking at me. She never did. My father Garth swirled his third glass of Barolo. "Get both," he said with the easy generosity of a man who never checks prices. Then my mother's voice cut through the chatter, casual as commenting on the weather. "Olive will handle this, won't you, sweetheart?" Not a question. A statement. She didn't even glance my way. I sat there in my clearance rack blazer, the one I'd worn deliberately, because I knew this dinner wasn't about celebrating my promotion. It never was. I looked at the bill folder, then at my family still laughing over something Christine said. They truly believed I was their safety net. They thought my quiet compliance was love. But compliance isn't always devotion. Sometimes it's just the exhaustion before the awakening. What they didn't know, what they'd never bothered to ask, was that the boring corporate accountant sitting at the far end of the table owned a commercial real estate portfolio worth $47 million. I'd been funding their fantasy for 8 years, one silent transaction at a time. And tonight, as I reached for that bill folder, something inside me finally broke. Not with a crash. With a click. Like a lock turning. Like a door closing. Like a spreadsheet being saved for the very last time. And what happened next changed everything. But before I show you how this all unfolded, if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how Olive dismantles an entire family empire built on her silence. Trust me, the payoff is worth it. The hostess had seated us at the best table in the house. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, soft Edison bulbs casting that expensive kind of warm glow that made everyone look like they belonged in a lifestyle magazine. My father had made the reservation under his name, of course. Garth Wells, party of 4, 7:30 p.m. I arrived exactly on time. They were already 20 minutes late. When they finally swept in, my mother kissed the air beside my cheek, her perfume announcing her arrival 3 seconds before she did. Christine was glowing in something designer, tags probably still attached for the return tomorrow. My father clapped me on the shoulder like we were old golf buddies, then immediately flagged down the sommelier. "We'll start with the 2015 Barolo," he said, not bothering with the wine list. "And bring us the oyster tower. The large one." I hadn't even opened my menu yet. The sommelier returned with the bottle, presenting it to my father like a sacred text. He swirled, sniffed, tasted, nodded his approval with the authority of a man who'd watched YouTube videos. They poured for everyone except me. I'd already asked for water. "Oh, Olive, don't be boring," Christine said, reaching across to squeeze my hand with her perfectly manicured fingers. "Have some wine. Live a little." "I'm driving," I said quietly. "You're always driving," my mother said, settling her napkin across her lap. Always so practical. So responsible. The words should have been compliments. They sounded like diagnoses. The oysters arrived on a mountain of ice. Nobody offered me one. They were too busy debating whether the mignonette was better than the cocktail sauce, whether the kushi or the Kumamoto had a better brine. I sipped my water and watched the skyline. When the server came for entrees, my father ordered the dry-aged ribeye. My mother chose the whole branzino. Christine wanted the lobster tail, but only if it came with the truffle butter. Could they do that? They could absolutely do that. "And for you, miss?" the server asked, turning to me for the first time all evening. "Just the side salad, please. No dressing." My mother's laugh was light, musical, cutting. "See? This is why you stay so thin, Olive. Meanwhile, Christine and I have to work for it." She reached over and patted Christine's hand. "Not that you need to, sweetheart. You wear everything beautifully. The meal continued in that rhythm. Them talking, me existing in the margins. They discussed Christine's upcoming vacation to Napa, my father's golf tournament, my mother's book club drama. When my father mentioned my recent promotion to senior accountant, it was only to make a joke about how I could finally afford to take them somewhere nice. I'd already paid for 4 of these dinners this year alone. The plates were cleared. Dessert menus appeared. And then came the leather folder, placed directly in front of my water glass like a bill of sale for my continued presence at this table. $3,847. My mother didn't even look up from the dessert menu. Olive will handle this, won't you, sweetheart? I paid the bill with my personal card, the one they thought was my only card. Smiled at the server, calculated the 20% tip manually because my father always undertipped, and walked out into the cool night air while they argued over who was riding with whom. Nobody asked if I needed a ride home. I'd driven myself. I always did. The drive back to my condo took 32 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio. Didn't need to. My mother's voice was already playing on loop in my head. It's the least you can do. So practical. So responsible. Olive will handle this. My home office was exactly how I'd left it. 3 monitors displaying property analytics, market reports, and acquisition opportunities. A 4th screen showed my personal dashboard, the one with all my accounts, all my carefully constructed financial architecture. I bypassed all of it and opened the file I'd been maintaining for 8 years. Family Support, XLSX. The spreadsheet loaded with a cold efficiency of truth in columns and rows. I'd started it as a way to stay organized, to track what I was helping with so I wouldn't lose track. That was back when I still believed helping was temporary, when I thought they just needed a little boost to get back on their feet. The first entry was dated March 2017. $2,400. Emergency roof repair. Dad's voice on the phone, stressed and apologetic. Just until the insurance check comes through, sweetheart. You know we're good for it. The insurance check never came. Or, if it did, it went somewhere else. I scrolled down. Each row was a timestamp of my optimism decaying. May 2017, $3,100. Mom's dental work August 2017, $5,800. Property tax shortfall November 2017, $4,200. Dad's truck transmission. Then the numbers got bigger. More frequent. January 2018, $8,000. First mortgage payment February 2018, $8,000. Second mortgage payment March 2018, $8,000. Third mortgage payment. It continued like that for 36 months. $87,000 total, not counting the property taxes I'd also covered twice. I'd told myself it was an investment in their stability, in our relationship, in finally being seen as someone who mattered. June 2019, $35,000, Christine's wedding. I'd written the check 3 weeks before the event. My mother had called it the ultimate sister gift. I wasn't in any of the family photos. Christine said my dress didn't match the color palette. I spent the reception in the hotel lobby, telling myself it was fine, that family was complicated, that this was just how love looked sometimes. December 2019, $18,000, family trip to Hawaii. They'd posted pictures for 2 weeks straight. Sunset dinners, snorkeling adventures, matching aloha shirts at the luau. When I'd asked about dates, my mother had said, "Oh, honey, it's a couples and siblings trip. You understand."
I understood perfectly.
I understood I was financing their vacation while eating ramen in my apartment. The smaller emergencies blurred together after that. Car repairs, credit card minimums, medical bills. Each one came with the same script. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. You know we'll pay you back. Family takes care of family. I scrolled to the bottom of the spreadsheet. Total disbursed, $287,943. Total repaid, $0. My hands hovered over the keyboard. I added tonight's dinner to the list. $291,790. The number glowed on the screen like an epitaph for the daughter I'd been trying to become. I should have gone to bed. It was past midnight, and I had a property closing at 9. But something about that total, $291,790, kept me awake. Not the amount itself. I'd made that much in a single quarterly distribution from one of my commercial properties. It was the zero next to total repaid that burned. I pulled up my credit monitoring account. Something I checked monthly out of habit, the same way I reconciled my business accounts. Clean credit was the foundation of everything I'd built. A 798 score that had taken years of meticulous financial discipline. Except tonight, something looked different. My utilization rate had jumped 11% since last month. That didn't make sense. I kept my personal cards at zero balances, paying them off completely every cycle. I clicked through to the detailed report. There were 2 cards I didn't recognize. Capital Bank Platinum Rewards. Opened April 2022. Current balance, $23,847. North Star Credit Gold Card. Opened September 2022. Current balance, $18,234. My stomach went cold. I'd never applied for either of these cards. Never even heard of North Star Credit. I logged into my primary credit bureau account, the one that showed every inquiry, every account, every financial breadcrumb of my existence. The hard inquiries told the story I'd been too trusting to see. April 2022. Capital Bank Credit Application September 2022. North Star Credit Application. January 2023. American Lending Personal Loan Inquiry March 2023. Summit Financial Line of Credit. For applications I'd never made. For time someone had used my information, my social security number, my spotless credit history as their personal piggy bank. I pulled the detailed reports for each account. The Capital Bank card showed charges at Nordstrom, Williams-Sonoma, a country club in my parents' zip code. The North Star card had funded what looked like a kitchen renovation based on the vendor names. Home Depot, Ferguson Bath and Kitchen.
Custom Cabinet Solution.
My father had remodeled their kitchen last summer. He'd show me pictures, proud of the Italian marble countertops, the custom cabinetry, the farmhouse sink my mother had wanted for years. Finally got around to some updates, he'd said. Took some savings, but worth it. Not his savings.
Meaning?
The personal loan was worse. $75,000 from American Lending, approved in January 2023. The documentation was attached in the portal. I downloaded it with shaking hands. There was my signature. Except it wasn't. Close, but the O in olive was wrong. Rounder than I made it. The W in Wells had a flourish I never used. And there, listed as co-applicant, Garth Michael Wells. My father had forged my signature. I sat back in my chair, the blue light from my monitors washing over me like I was drowning in data. The loan proceeds had been dispersed to an account ending in 4739. I cross-referenced it with the bank statements my father had accidentally forwarded me once, asking me to help him understand an overdraft fee. Account ending in 4739. His checking account. He'd taken out a $75,000 loan in my name and deposited it directly into his own account. The monthly payments, $1, $247, were automatically debiting from the Capital Bank card. The one also opened fraudulently in my name. He'd created a perfect closed loop of theft. My credit. His spending. My future liability. I opened a new spreadsheet. This one, I titled Evidence. I stayed up until 3 a.m. documenting everything. Account numbers, transaction dates, forged signatures. But somewhere around 2:30, exhaustion cracked open a door I usually kept locked. The memories started flooding in, uninvited. Christine's wedding. June 2019. I'd written the check in April. $35,000. My mother had cried when she saw it, pulled me into a hug that lasted 3 full seconds. "You're saving Christine's dream day," she'd whispered. "She'll never forget this."
Christine forgot by May.
The week before the wedding, I'd asked about getting ready with a bridal party. My mother had paused, her smile freezing in that particular way that meant she was about to deliver bad news wrapped in kindness. "The suite is already so crowded, honey. And you know how Christine gets stressed with too many people. Maybe you could just meet us at the venue." I'd arrived 2 hours early in my carefully chosen navy dress. I'd spent weeks finding it, something elegant, but not attention-grabbing. Something that said supportive sister, not scene stealer. Christine took one look at me during family photos and frowned. "That blue totally clashes with the color palette. We're doing blush and sage, remember? I sent you the Pantone codes." She hadn't. I'd checked my email 3 times later that night to confirm. "I'm so sorry," I'd said. "I can stay out of the formal shots." "That's probably best," my mother had agreed, already turning back to arrange Christine's veil. I'd watched from the corner as they posed. Parents and bride. Bride and bridesmaids. Extended family group. The photographer never even looked my way. When I checked Christine's Instagram later, I wasn't in a single photo. Not one. Like I'd never been there at all. Like the $35,000 had materialized from nowhere. A miracle.
Divine intervention.
Certainly not from the sister in the wrong-colored dress eating chicken alone at table 17. My birthday that year was on a Thursday, June 27th. I turned 31. Christine's birthday was June 24th. She turned 28. My mother had started planning Christine's celebration in April. A week of activities. Spa day on Monday. Dinner with friends Tuesday. Family brunch Wednesday. The actual birthday on Thursday was a surprise party at their country club with 60 guests. I'd contributed $2,000 toward the party costs. Another line item in the spreadsheet. On my birthday, 3 days later, I got a text at 9 p.m. "Happy birthday, sweetie. Sorry we missed calling. Such a crazy week. Dinner next month?" There was never a dinner next month, but the pattern went back further than that. Years further. I'd made junior partner at my firm at 27. First person in my cohort to get promoted. I'd called my parents from the parking lot, hands still shaking with adrenaline. "That's wonderful, honey," my mother had said. "Hold on, Christine just walked in." "Christine, tell your father about the new marketing coordinator position you got." Christine had been hired as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized startup. Entry level. $42,000 salary. My partnership had come with a $180,000 base plus profit sharing. We'd celebrated Christine's job with a family dinner at the steakhouse. Prime rib all around. My father gave a toast about how proud he was, how he always knew she'd find her calling. My partnership earned a "that's wonderful, honey" and a dial tone. I stared at my monitors, seeing my own reflection ghosted across the spreadsheet cells. I'd spent 8 years trying to buy my way into Matching, trying to make them see me by making myself useful, making myself indispensable. I'd become invisible instead. How many of you have been the responsible one who gets taken for granted? The one who gives everything and gets nothing back? If this resonates, subscribe and let me know in the comments, what would you do in Olive's position? This community is built on real stories and real support. I called my attorney at 8:47 a.m., 3 hours of sleep doing nothing to soften the evidence I'd compiled. Marcus Chen had handled my commercial real estate deals for 6 years. He knew me as meticulous, unemotional, always 3 steps ahead. He'd never heard my voice shake before. "I need you to look at something," I said. "Personal matter. Possibly criminal." He cleared his morning and met me at my office by 10. I'd printed everything. Bank statements, credit reports, loan applications, transaction histories. 47 pages documenting a systematic campaign of financial identity theft. I laid them across my conference table in chronological order, like a prosecutor building a case. Because that's exactly what this was. Marcus put on his reading glasses and started with a Capital Bank application. He didn't speak for 7 minutes. Just read, occasionally making notes on his legal pad in that cramped handwriting attorneys seem to learn in law school. When he finally looked up, his expression was carefully neutral. The kind of neutral that meant he was furious on my behalf, but too professional to show it. "The signature," he said, tapping the loan application. "This isn't you."
No.
"But it's close. Someone practiced. Someone who's seen your signature enough times to approximate it." He pulled out his phone and photographed the document. "I'm going to have our forensic document examiner look at this, but I can tell you right now, the pressure patterns are wrong. See here? Where the pen lifts between the L and the I in olive.
You don't do that.
Your signature is one continuous motion." I'd never noticed that about my own signature. My father apparently hadn't either. Marcus moved to the credit card statements. His jaw tightened when he saw the charges.
Custom Cabinet Solutions.
That's a high-end kitchen renovation company. Ferguson is luxury plumbing fixtures.
He looked up at me.
Someone remodeled a house with your credit. My parents' house. Last summer. And you didn't authorize this card? I didn't know it existed until midnight last night. He made another note. The American lending loan is the smoking gun. $75,000. Co-applicant listed as. He paused, reading the name. Garth Michael Wells. Your father? Yes. Olive, this isn't just identity theft. This is fraud with aggravating circumstances. He used his real name as co-applicant while forging your signature as primary borrower. That shows premeditation, sophistication. He knew exactly what he was doing. I'd known that too, somewhere deep down. But hearing Marcus say it made it real in a way that spreadsheets couldn't. He kept reading. Flipped to the North Star credit statement. Pulled up something on his laptop, cross-referencing. There's a charge here for $8,400 to Coastal Auto Sales. Date is September 2022. He looked at me. Does that mean anything to you?
It did.
September 2022. Christine's birthday. She'd posted photos of her new baby, a certified pre-owned Mercedes C-Class. White with tan leather interior. She'd captioned it blessed and grateful with a dozen hashtags. My sister's car, I said quietly. Marcus set down his pen. Your father opened a fraudulent credit card in your name to buy your sister a Mercedes. Apparently. Olive, we're not talking about one impulsive mistake here. This is a pattern spanning multiple years, multiple financial institutions, multiple fraudulent accounts. The total exposure. He calculated quickly. Between the cards and the loan, you're looking at approximately $117,000 in fraudulent debt currently in your name. The number hit different coming from him. From my spreadsheet, it was data. From Marcus, it was a legal weapon. Can we prove it? I asked. The forensic analysis will take a few days, but yes. Between the signature discrepancies, the IP addresses on the applications, I'm betting they'll trace to your parents' address and the transaction patterns? We can prove it. He met my eyes. The question is, what do you want to do with that proof? I looked at the documents spread across my table. Evidence of 8 years of being treated like a resource instead of a daughter. Everything, I said. I want to do everything. Marcus wanted to wait. Let me get the forensic analysis back first, he'd said. Build the case properly. I'd smiled and thanked him and told him to proceed with the analysis. What I didn't tell him was that I was done waiting. Done building cases while my credit score bled out. Done being methodical while they spent my future. I'd spent 8 years being patient, being understanding, being the good daughter who never made waves. That daughter died somewhere around 3 a.m. last night. The new one woke up at 6:15 a.m. with a clarity that felt almost chemical. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started dismantling their lives with the same efficiency I used to build my real estate empire. First, the joint checking account at Riverside Bank. The one I'd opened in 2018 when my father said they needed help managing cash flow. I was listed as primary account holder. They had full access. The balance was $47,234, my deposits from 3 months of autopay buffers. I transferred $47,234 to my personal account. Then I closed it. Account termination confirmed at 6:23 a.m. Second, the authorized user cards. My mother had one on my Platinum Amex. Christine had one on my Visa Signature. Both issued in 2019 under the guise of emergency access. The emergencies had included 4-star hotels, designer handbags, and a suspicious number of charges at high-end salons. I called American Express first. The representative was cheerful, efficient. I need to remove an authorized user. Card ending in 7834. Certainly, Ms. Wells. May I ask the name? Jill Wells. My mother.
Done.
The card will be deactivated within the hour. Is there anything else?
Yes.
I'd like to set up a fraud alert on my account. No new authorized users without in-person verification and 2 forms of ID. Chase was equally accommodating. Christine's card ended at 6:31 a.m. Third, the autopay arrangements. I'd set up automatic payments for their mortgage in January 2018. Just temporarily, my father had promised. Until we refinance. They never refinanced. I'd been paying $2,900 monthly for 42 months. $121,800 total. I logged into their mortgage servicer using the account access they'd given me. Found the autopay settings. Clicked delete. Payment authorization removed at 6:38 a.m. Their next mortgage payment was due in 11 days. They'd figure it out or they wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. Fourth, the trust fund. This one hurt more than the others because I'd created it with actual hope. December 2020. A $50,000 emergency fund in a high-yield savings account. For real emergencies, I'd told myself. Medical bills.
Actual crisis.
They'd withdrawn $43,000 over 2 years. The transaction descriptions told the story. Family vacation fund. Holiday shopping. General expenses. The remaining $7,000 sat there like a monument to my stupidity. I transferred it to my account. Closed the trust. Gone at 6:44 a.m. Fifth, the credit monitoring service I'd been paying for them. The one that was supposed to protect their credit but had somehow missed all the fraudulent accounts opened in my name. Probably because my father had changed the alert email to his own address. Subscription canceled at 6:47 a.m. I sat back and looked at my work. 6 actions. 29 minutes. Every financial connection between us severed with the clinical precision of a surgeon removing a tumor.
My phone sat silent on the desk.
They wouldn't know yet. They were probably still asleep, dreaming in their California king bed in their remodeled house with their Italian marble countertops. Funded by my credit. My future. My silence. I made a second cup of coffee and waited for the reckoning to begin. The first call came at 11:17 a.m. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Olive, honey, something's wrong with my card. It was declined at the club.
I'm mortified.
Call me back immediately. Not please. Not when you have a chance. Immediately. Like I was her personal IT support. I deleted it and went back to reviewing a property acquisition in Denver. The second call came 6 minutes later.
Christine this time.
Also voicemail. Olive, what the hell? My card isn't working, and Mom says hers isn't either. Did you forget to pay your bill, or something? Call me back. The assumption that it was my incompetence, not my intention.
Perfect.
By noon, I had 14 missed calls. My mother, my father, Christine. A rotation of panic with ascending intensity. I silenced my phone and went to lunch. When I came back at 1:30, there were 9 new voicemails. My mother's voice had progressed from confused to angry. Olive, this is unacceptable. I had to leave my cart at Nordstrom. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Call me back right now. Christine was in full crisis mode. My car payment bounced. Bounced, Olive. My credit is going to be ruined. What did you do? Why would you cancel the auto pay without telling me? Her credit.
Her auto pay.
The car I'd unknowingly purchased with fraudulent credit. My father's first voicemail was almost reasonable. Olive, sweetheart, there seems to be some kind of mix-up with the accounts. Give your old man a call when you get a chance. We need to sort this out. His second one, left at 2:47 p.m., was less composed. The background noise suggested a bar. The slur in his voice confirmed it. You know what, Olive? This is what I'm talking about. This is exactly the kind of petty, vindictive bullshit that makes you impossible to deal with. We ask you for one goddamn favor, and you throw a tantrum like a child. You've always been like this. Always so sensitive. Always keeping score. I stopped the playback. Restarted it. Listened again to make sure I'd heard correctly. One favor. He'd called defrauding me for $117,000. One favor. The voicemail continued. Your mother is in tears. Christine is panicking about her credit. And for what? Because we didn't fawn over you enough at dinner? Because we forgot to worship at the altar of Olive the martyr? His voice got harder. Meaner. The alcohol stripping away the veneer of the jovial father he played at family dinners. You want to know the truth? You've never fit in this family. Christine is beautiful, charming, actually likable. Your mother and we connect with her. With you, it's always been work. Always been obligation. We kept hoping you'd grow out of being so goddamn awkward, but here we are. There was a pause. Ice clinking in a glass. You're punishing us for being honest about who you are. A boring accountant with a boring life who thinks money makes her important. Well, congratulations, Olive. You've got your precious money. Hope it keeps you warm at night since nobody else will. The voicemail ended. I saved it. Added it to my evidence folder with a file name. dad_confession_12:47 p.m.mp3. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, opened my laptop, and drafted an email. Subject line. Family meeting required. The body was one sentence. My penthouse. Saturday at 2 p.m. Come prepared to discuss your debt. I attached a PDF. A single page. Just the summary from my evidence spreadsheet. Total fraudulent accounts. For total fraudulent debt. $117,081 total voluntary financial support. $291,790 combined exposure. $408,871. I added all three of them to the recipient line. And I hit send. They arrived separately, which told me everything. No unified front. No family solidarity. Just three individuals panicking about their own exposure. My mother came first, 12 minutes early, dressed like she was attending a funeral. Black suit, minimal jewelry, the performance of contrition. She stepped off the elevator into my penthouse and stopped mid-stride. You live here? I own here. I corrected. The whole building, actually. Purchased it in 2021. Her eyes swept across the floor-to-ceiling windows, the exposed brick, the custom millwork, the art I'd collected from local galleries. 2,200 square feet of evidence that I wasn't who she thought I was. Christine arrived next, looking smaller somehow. The designer clothes couldn't hide the fact that she'd been crying. She saw the space and her face went white. How can you afford this? Commercial real estate portfolio. Currently valued at $47 million. Give or take. My father was last, exactly on time, wearing his country club blazer like armor. But his eyes gave him away. They darted around the space, calculating, recalculating everything he thought he knew about his boring accountant daughter. I'd set up the conference table in front of the windows. 3 chairs on one side. Mine on the other. 3 manila folders waiting at each of their places.
Sit, I said.
They sat. I remained standing. Open the folders. Inside were printouts of everything. The fraudulent loan application with my forged signature highlighted in yellow. The credit card statements showing charges for their kitchen renovation, Christine's Mercedes, my mother's shopping sprees. Bank records showing the $75,000 deposited directly into my father's account. Transaction logs. IP addresses. Forensic analysis of the signature forgery. And security footage. I'd subpoenaed it through Marcus. My father at a Capital One Bank branch in April 2022, presenting identification, opening an account in my name. The timestamp was burned into the corner. April 15th, 2022, 2:47 p.m. My mother made a sound like she'd been struck. Christine stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. My father's jaw worked silently, but no words came out. $408,871, I said. That's what you've taken from me over 8 years. 117,000 of it through identity theft and fraud. The rest I gave you willingly, believing family meant something. Olive, sweetheart. My mother started. Don't. My voice was surgical. You don't get to sweetheart me anymore. You don't get to call me boring or awkward or make me feel invisible while you drain my accounts. That version of our relationship ended the moment Dad forged my signature. My father finally found his voice. It's not fraud when it's family. We were going to pay you back. With what? You're underwater on a mortgage I paid for 3 years. You financed a lifestyle you can't afford using my credit. Christine's car is repossessed without my payments. Mom's country club membership bounces without my card. I pulled out one more document, placed it in the center of the table. This is a repayment agreement. You have 2 options. Option 1. Structured repayment plan. $400,000 over 10 years at 6% interest. Monthly payments of $4,443. You'll sell the house, downsize, liquidate assets, get real jobs, and pay me back every cent. Christine was crying now. Full sobs. My mother looked like she might vomit. Option 2, my father asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I smiled. It wasn't kind. I file criminal charges for identity theft, bank fraud, and forgery. You go to prison. I recoup what I can through asset seizure and civil judgment. And I never speak to any of you again. The silence stretched like a wire about to snap. You have 72 hours to decide. The choice has been made. The family has to decide between accountability and pride. If you want to see how this ends, and trust me, the ending is everything, make sure you're subscribed. You've come this far. Don't miss the end. They didn't take 72 hours. They took 48. The email came from my father's account, but I recognized my mother's syntax. Christine was CC'd, which meant they drafted it together, probably over wine, probably convinced they were the victims in this story. After careful consideration, we've decided we cannot, in good conscience, sign your agreement. What you're asking isn't repayment, it's extortion. We're your family, not your debtors. The fact that you would threaten us with criminal charges over what amounts to misunderstandings and accounting errors shows how far you've strayed from the values we raised you with. We need space from this toxicity. Do not contact us again. Misunderstandings. Accounting errors. $400,000 of theft rebranded as my moral failing. I forwarded the email to Marcus with a 2-word reply. File everything. Christine's Instagram post went up 6 hours later. A tearful selfie, carefully lit, with a caption about toxic family members who use money as a weapon and setting boundaries with financial abusers. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. She'd disabled comments, but the post got 3,847 likes. Probably from people who had no idea she was talking about the sister who'd unknowingly bought her Mercedes. My mother's Facebook post was more restrained, but equally theatrical. Something about the hardest decision a parent can make, and choosing peace over proximity. Her book club rallied in the comments with heart emojis and "You're so strong" affirmations.
I didn't respond. Didn't defend myself.
Didn't waste energy trying to win a narrative battle with people who'd already rewritten history. I just let Marcus do his job. The asset seizure began within a week. Their house went into foreclosure. Turned out they were 7 months behind even before I stopped paying. The equity that remained after the bank took their cut came to $43,000. Christine's Mercedes was repossessed. The fraudulent accounts were flagged and frozen. Total recovery, $67,800. Not even close to what they owed, but enough to build something that mattered. I established the foundation on what would have been my 33rd birthday. The one they'd forget again, undoubtedly. The Olive Wells Foundation for Financial Autonomy. Mission: supporting women escaping financial abuse and coercive control. The initial endowment was $500,000, the recovered funds plus a significant contribution from my own accounts. Not charity. Investment. In the daughters who'd been told their worth was measured by their utility. In the sisters who'd paid for weddings they weren't photographed at. In the women who'd signed their names to love that looked like embezzlement. Marcus helped me structure it properly. Scholarships for financial literacy programs. Grants for women leaving financially abusive situations. Legal aid for identity theft victims whose families were the perpetrators. The foundation launched quietly in September. No press release.
No social media announcement.
Just a website and a mission statement and a phone number for women who needed help rebuilding. The first application came 2 days later. A woman named Sarah, whose mother had opened 17 credit cards in her name. Reading her story felt like looking in a mirror. I approved her grant within an hour. By December, we'd helped 43 women. 43 people who'd been taught that love came with interest rates and family meant co-signing your destruction. My phone never rang with apologies. My mother never called to admit the fraud. Christine never took down her Instagram post. My father never acknowledged that he'd committed a felony. And slowly, painfully, liberatingly, I realized I didn't need them to. I'd spent 8 years performing invisible labor in exchange for crumbs of affection. I'd confused being needed with being valued. I'd believed that if I just gave enough, fixed enough, stayed quiet enough, they'd finally see me as a daughter instead of a resource. I was done performing, done auditioning for a role in a family that had already cast me as the understudy. On Christmas Eve, I sat in my penthouse with a glass of wine and the foundation's quarterly report. 43 women helped. $127,000 in grants distributed. 12 legal cases won. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. I just got approved for your foundation's scholarship. I've been trying to leave my financially abusive ex-husband for 2 years. This changes everything. Thank you for seeing me. I read it twice, then a third time. She'd ended with, "Thank you for seeing me." I'd spent 32 years desperate to be seen by people who were looking right through me. Turned out, the freedom wasn't in finally being seen by them. It was in finally seeing myself clearly enough to walk away.